of you would sign that sheet so that when lawsuits come up, we know if you were here or not.
Watch your tape.
We can prove to the lawyer that you were here. So pass that on around. Next we have standing committee reports.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay.
We're circulating a Treasury income statement. If you don't get one, I've got more of them up. I sent some around if there's not enough. This is coming from Gloria. As of September 5 of 09, we have a bank balance of $50,646 and change. That fluctuates because of the banquet and things like that. Gloria would explain it better than I. But anyway, that's the bank balance we got. So the club is healthy from that standpoint. Some of that will be spent on various projects, which you'll hear from these other committees. I don't have a membership. It says that we're supposed to have membership. I did the financing for Gloria as a current membership. But we're at about 850, 900 members, something like that, in the club, and that's internationally. So that's we got a lot of people in Sweden. We got a lot of people overseas in Europe. But most of them are obviously Canadian and the United States. But the club is healthy, and here we go.
We got one member who just joined, R.J. Kerr.
And I do have, if there's anyone else who's here, like as a guest, and you're looking to join, I've got some new membership packets. We can sign you up and what have you. We'll do that back in the hospitality suite back over at the hotel. But we'll get your stuff to you. And anyone else who's looking to sign up, if you're here as a first-time person, we got cards. We'll take the money, of course, and then you'll get your membership package.
George, I've got the sign-up sheet over here. Anybody didn't get in the
Should be
sign-up?
kind of working its way down our right.
Okay.
Anyone have any comment on that report?
We like that.
I move the treasurer's report be accepted as presented.
Pardon?
I move the treasurer's report be accepted as presented.
Second. Reproduction parts. Now, this is something that was started a while back, and I can't remember the first project that actually was started and completed, but one of the main things was the upholstery kits for the 300s, 1960, 61, and 62. And during that time, the impressions of the leather for the 1960 and 62, a basket weave, that was reproduced by dyes that we do own now. And the dyes for the 1961, we don't own those. That is owned by a company in New York State. We buy our leather from a company in Michigan that was also a supplier of leather to Chrysler Corporation. And we're currently undergoing that with approximately $15,000 for leather alone. Approximately, I'm working on this with the people in New York State that make the inserts for the 1961. They own the dye, and they cut the panels to the correct size that are ready to be sewn in to the upholstery. We're talking probably another $3,000 to $4,000 on that. One of the latest projects we just completed was the 1965 300L outer tricolor ring, center lens, gasket, and light bulb. The original light bulb was, I think, 21 candle power, and that was the culprit for damaging the lens. The heat was created so much there that the lens would crack and or it would frost. There were two versions of the 65L lens. They first came out with a clear lens with the letter L in it. And people started complaining about how bright that was. So then any replacement lenses that you got from Chrysler was a frosted lens. So we found out that we could locate another bulb
They're
of
naturally
much smaller
frosted.
candle power, so it did not destroy the new lens that you would put into the grill. So we got that covered. And it was a decision, what do we do? Do we go for the original
No.
clear lens
No.
as the car came from the factory? Or do we go with the frosted lens that was the replacement lens? For authenticity, it was decided we go with the clear lens. But we would change the candle power of the bulb. That project has been completed. Both of those lenses were done in Australia. And believe me, it took a long, long time to get done. But it got done. They're in stock
Snowball to
and
China.
have been selling quite a few of them. All right, and Michael Burke is also a member of the Restoration Committee, and Herb Rogers. Herb and Michael, do you have any further comments you'd like to put out?
Well, I think you've covered the current stuff. We're just trying to get interiors back in inventory. Having a few problems with the leather company over prepay and issues like that, but we're getting there. Move along.
Herb?
Move along.
Nothing other than the leather, I guess. Okay. All right, well.
George, are there any other projects in the pipeline?
Pardon?
Are there any other projects in the pipeline to be reproduced?
Well, I've been having some requests again about hood springs, 57, 58, and 59. And right now, I've got 4 people that said that they would be interested. Also,
People show off their
I'm waiting
engines
a
so
little
much
bit on
on those
that.
Hemis, they wear out the
Right now,
springs.
the
Right,
jack
Bill?
hold downs, 57, 58, and 59. We've had 2 runs of those made, and Bill Spear, out in Chardon, Ohio, he was the one that was able to find somebody to do that. I have placed the 3rd order, and we're waiting for approximately 45 more to come. They wanted to do 100, and I says, I don't know, I think that we're pretty well saturated so far. But I just got a call a couple of days before coming out to the meet that one fella needs 5 of them. So, you know.
5. These 5 springs.
We'll go with what the,
You got one in the middle of the hood or what?
how would you say, the conservative amount
Well,
goes.
2 per car.
Because I think we have sold
Unless they're talking about the hood release. Oh,
a little better than 80.
set, maybe so.
And with the recent request about hood springs, 57, 8, and 59, and also I've had a couple of calls about hood springs for 60, 61, 62. We'll see what happens there. But right now, the leather project, that's the most expensive thing. We first started buying these leather hides, which were, oh God, I can't remember now how many square feet, but they were prime hides. A lot of the hides that were out available on the market, they were of the glove leather. They were soft, and you could, you know, actually stretch them. And those were available. And I found out, talking to hide people, that there's a difference in the hides. You've got a top grain, a top hide, and you've got a belly hide. And some of the automotive upholsterers are using the belly hide because it's half the price of your top hide. And when we first started this project years and years ago, each hide was $158. And not including the center pads that go into these things, it took a hide and a half just to do the outside trim. And then plus we had to have, we actually bought a die to press the basket lead that comes in the 1960 and the 1962 Chrysler upholstery. That was a little over $5,000. But we own that die. And we can have that done. We order the hide, they have the roller, and they just charge us a small fee to doing the impression in the eye. But it's 1961, it's a different, it's a smooth, with a slight checkerboard pattern in it. That's a company in New York State. They own the die. And how they became owners of that die, the story is that apparently they supplied this particular pattern for Chrysler. That's not been confirmed, but it seems logical to still have it. But when they do it, they cut these forward.
Considered reducing the door sill panel that does from 16 to 64.
Repeat that again?
About reducing the door sill panels for 16 to 64, right? They're all the same.
Step plates.
You mean the complete panel?
Sill
Okay, the sill plate.
I believe there was a fellow with doing the earlier ones.
Yeah.
And the code has 55 and 56. Now maybe he would consider maybe working with him to do
Doing the brushed aluminum inserts for the door panel. And there's other projects they're getting into. They were going to get into gas tanks with one of our club members down there at Tips in a while, Dory Park. He contracted and had these things unfortunately made in Taiwan. And then other dealers, I can't name them offhand, but they advertise that they have the same fuel tanks. But those fuel tanks come through Murray Park. He's the one that initiated the whole thing. They all the arrangements to have made in Taiwan. Now, from the reports that I get from some people, they're extremely satisfied and also have remanufactured fuel centers to go in the tank. The lock ring and the Any other questions? All right, next thing is the electronics, electronic communication. Don Warner, Bob Merritt, and Don Warner are part of that. Don, you have something?
I'll give you a little piece of trivia about that L running light before I start. I bought mine new and it had a 21 candle out of bulb, that's how George knows it. And it had the clear lens, and I purchased a replacement as a spare. 4 years later, it came back frosted. So I think all the run had the clear, but the company made the replacements frosted. Fortunately, my car was not wired from the ignition to light the bulb, so it didn't go on all the time. It went on the headlight switch. Well, I found it out, took the thing out, converted it to the ballast resistor, put 4 candle power bulb in, doesn't go. And it's point bright. Well, the ECC is down to 2 people, of course, Bob Merritt and myself. John Hertog, of course, we both handle all sections of the website, but the emphasis is on certain parts. Bob handles the ads, the parts things, some of the technical stuff. I do the events page, the home page, the meet reports, things like that. Update things for the change of officers or directors as they are voted on and so on. It's alive and well. And if I say so myself, I think the website's pretty good. We compare it to other car clubs and we seem to have a pretty complete site. Check it out for yourselves. Also, it's a very neat address, chrysler.com. Let's see, Bob handles the listserv. I do not handle anything with the listserv. So he gets involved in that. And of course, we've had other controversies, but we have 463 members on the listserv right now, I think. But that means we have over half the club on the listserv, so the communication is pretty good. Because the listserv, as you know, if you write something, people chime in and write something else and answer your questions, and we could not do that 10 years ago. We didn't have any. The newsletters took weeks to arrive in Australia, Now they get the information this Facebook. Bob has also contacted somebody some friend who knows somebody of all things of the Airflow Club, who is involved in OCR, which is optical character recognition.
Oh, God, another buzzword.
So that means we're going to be able, we think, to place all the newsletters from day one on the website, so you can peruse them. We'll scan them and convert them into character recognitions that will be on the website. It's a neat idea. Because most of you in this room, I assume, most, don't have all these letters. I do. I'm really member. I'm sure people like Gil and Terry and Kevin and the other
George is a court.
people who were early in clubs.
Really good.
But most don't, because you weren't around in the club. And those early newsletters are pretty thin, but they're kind of interesting.
How many gigabytes does it take? Load it up, it freezes, and then I have to call a computer guy to clean it up.
We had as you know, we had a controversy on the listserv occasionally, but we have 463 people who get along pretty well. How often do we really have a problem? That's very weird. Bob Meier handles that aspect, but he also has been monitoring messages so that we prevent stray messages from getting out. Seems rather simple. Any questions? We have, just to add to it, on our front page, we have every model of the 300 sample with the picture. And that's not just for your benefit, that's for the public's benefit, because you know it. But the public going to a website don't know what we are representing. And when they go to our website, there it is, these are the cars we recognize. And pictures are in place with them. And we have a very, very well-produced links where it goes from place to place, quite well.
I just want to thank Don for a phenomenal job for doing the events section for this meeting. Don took it on his own initiative to get the pictures for the hotel and for 57 Heaven of the three-quarter shot of the Imperial, and was really flexible for all the curveballs in terms of program, interfacing, and everything. And again, you get a big hit parade from me. Thank you so much.
Those pictures, by the way, are fairly easy. Because you can right-click on any picture on the web and save it as a file and put it in the website. That's good work. Good stuff. But I'm glad you appreciate it. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
You know, I don't have a question. I just happened to pick up a message off the church that might be of interest to the group. It's from a Raphael Brunet in France, and he's passing on the longtime French member Gilles Brunet passed away from a sudden heart attack at less than 50. So instantaneous update. He goes on and on about Gilles' passion for the 300s. Maybe a moment of silence.
Yeah. That's Gilles?
Yeah.
In France?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Less than 50.
Yes, the new Gilles, he's been our house years and years ago, and you know, he's been to quite a few meets too. That's a very sad thing to hear. There's one category here that, well, it's been overlooked whether it's that all important or not, but due to circumstances, I've got the club store in the trunk of my car. Realized that, you know, after we get the spare tire out, this and that, there, what's in that box? Oh my God. So I'll have some of that stuff out of the current hot course judgment, which will be applied at this particular meet, and I'd like to have Gil Cunningham get up and have something to say about it. Gilbert?
Oh, I'm sorry. What am I supposed to say?
I'm sorry for not listening.
Oh, I don't.
You're the concourse
Yeah, I
at
don't think there's
microfilm?
anything more to say. Really, it's been said. This is a, shall we say, our minimal one. Not talking about the quality of the car, but the number. So just the junk is pointed out around 9 o'clock. And anybody who's interested in that little operation, see what we do, and maybe thinking in terms of entering your own car in a future conference, observe, you're welcome to do that and ask questions and so forth. We'll have plenty of time. Of course, the more time you have in the car, Fritz, I feel sorry for we'll try to be good. That's cool. Any questions? Okay.
No further questions for Gil? Okay. Next one, we have the apparel committee. That's Vic Chrysler. Vic, over in the corner.
I didn't talk to Doug, so I don't know if he sends his apologies for not being here. But I guess his L broke down once again on the way. No, just, yes. Every time he sets out with that L. Thanks to Rob, he took care of getting all the apparel stuff, the ties and the shirts and the vests done here locally, so we didn't have big expense shipping them across the country. Thank you. Buy all of them, so we don't have any expense of shipping them to my house to store them, so I can bring them to another day. I see you've been buying lots of stuff because I'm already out of hats, so we'll get a batch made up for the next meeting, and we'll see you all in the front door in Virginia.
Your brochure, your photo.
Well, we're still working on
Okay, in addition to that,
Photo, Joe.
a number of years ago, Michael Burke and I were involved in being responsible for a club jacket. And through the course of time, I was getting publications, catalogs from different apparel companies. They like to do that when they hear of a car club or something. Boy, you start getting brochures and catalogs from anywhere and everywhere. And looking at most of the items in there, prices seem pretty good. The description of the item looked okay. But then you look down at the bottom, it says important. Okay. Got talking with Michael Burke. Michael Burke owned a company in Quincy, and he had jackets and shirts and hats made locally. Little town just north of Jonesville called Litchfield. A company called Harvard Clothing. So I said, I'd like to go over there and see what they do. Well, Harvard Clothing, they manufacture a lot of high school football uniforms, jackets, and...
Thanks for serving us. Good meal, good service. Sorry for the confusion on our part.
And with the great food we have here, now we're ordering dairy.
Fantastic. Hey, all right. Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, Club News, News Flight, still published in the good old US of A. You may have noticed that I'm doing all of them again. So I'm struggling along, putting one out every 6 or 8 weeks, and I can't really seem to find much time to do it any faster. So I could really use some help. Mike Burke came out a few weeks ago and had a meeting with me in Chicago. We talked it over, and he's trying to get the board going to, get somebody to help me get things organized, because these things take a long time. And what you people can do is send me stories. I really, when it comes time for me to, when I get a break in my work and I say, oh, I better work on a Club News, it's nice when I have stuff there, I can put it together and I don't have to go chasing people down. And unlike the internet, sending you to a website and say to right-click a picture doesn't work for me, because you lose a degree of resolution every time a photo is copied. And I mean, this is all done electronically, but you know, press quality is a different thing than what you look at on your computer screen. So it's helpful. Get original photos. They can be on regular paper, regular photo paper, from film. You know, that's fine too. But we can scan them. But you know, it's helpful. I mean, I've been putting out calls for stories on 300J for months and months. I have two stories in it. For this, that's why that was supposed to be the last issue. I put it off. I did a meat issue instead. So I've got about 6 or 7 stories on the K. I mean, the J is historically a tough one to fill, but you know, if anybody can help me out, one photo, a couple paragraphs fills a page. You know, and every, you know, I try to get 32 or 40 pages in there, but sometimes it's tough. So that's about it. What's going on? If you know, anybody wants to pitch in, let me know. My name's in the front of every book. Thank you.
I know I've discussed this with Andy, and I've made some phone calls, and I've called some members, and unless I threaten them with death in some way, I've accomplished some acknowledgement that, well, you know, it's not for this coming newsletter. I said, no, it's not. I said, but Andy needs backup. He needs backup material. And as you all know, that Eleanor was the editor-in-chief of both the Club News and Newsflash. And we worked together on that. And I'll tell you, it's no easy job. And one of the advantages that her and I had was the fact that I acquired a lot of, well, how would you say, memorabilia, about 300s. And that's my own personal file. And when these publications were made, she said that she needed something as a filler or something, and it was real easy. I'd go to the file, pull it out, you know, 6-drawer file cabinet just filled with 300 information. A lot of stuff I got from Chrysler back when you could call in there and you'd ask for this, and ask for that. Instead of 1 or 2 things come through, they send you a box with all related information. It's all mine. It's all category. And
I can get the
yeah,
number
it
off
became
the call.
difficult. But one has to understand through those years, Eleanor and I, we were fully retired. And we could spend 8-10 hours a day. And when you double it up, you figure 16 hours, 20 hours a day you could devote on a publication. Yeah, there were times that we were kind of stuck for it. But then with Eleanor's passing, I couldn't do it. And Andy, with some of his knowledge, he writes articles for other car magazines. He does automobile testing for various magazines. Was a natural choice. So it was put to him, and he said, well, you know, how much does this involve? Well, now he knows. And unfortunately, you know, like I say, both of us were retired. And if I got up at 9:30 in the morning,
Perfect time. 10 is even better.
have a cup of coffee, wife got up at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and start working on the newsletter.
I wish I could. I wish I could.
And it
How old
wasn't a
are you?
request, but it was a demand. If I didn't meet those demands, I didn't
I need my sleep.
promoted the publication. And she was a pusher also. And she says, you know, I'll call somebody up. And she said, I don't care what kind of excuse they got. They're a club member. They want these publications. They have to contribute to it. That was her attitude. Which, in a sense, is correct. No matter how small an article you have, maybe you have a half a page, anything that you can write, and any personal experience with your
Or
car,
how much hair you have.
pre-restoration or after restoration, so on and so forth,
It was
or
very
something
bad.
to do with a family member or a local car service. That information
One
is
thing he
valuable,
hasn't
not
mown
only
on
to
his,
yourself,
grown on his
it's valuable
nose.
to then conversely, it's also valuable to the membership who reads that. And they say, oh yeah, I can relate to that, or I've done that, or gee, I would like to do that too, maybe that's an idea. So, your help is needed. And if you can get something together, get it to Andy. And I've talked to a number of people in the past, and I told Andy who I've talked to,